Since their fantastic win at the weekend against Wolves, I think it's safe to say there's a general air of positivity around Chelsea Football Club that probably hasn't been felt since the end of that Pochettino era, both from the media but also the fans as well, which is of course exactly what we want to see. Positive vibes coming from Chelsea, but despite that, I still think there's some glaring issues that they need to fix in the transfer market by the end of a window. So today I'm going to talk about 5 sales that I think Chelsea must make before the window closes, which isn't too long now. So whilst I don't want to really bring the Chelsea mood down, I think it is still something that needs to be talked about. Obviously, these are all going to be my own opinions, so I want to hear yours in the comments down below, but I think there's 5 major sales that Chelsea have to make if they want this season to have the best chance of success. Now, I do just want to caveat that by saying that I know these players that I talk about aren't necessarily part of Chelsea's squad that Maresca's training with anyway, so to say they're going to impact the team might sound weird, but it's just a general vibes. If you have these guys at the club, there's going to be media reports on it, general bad light on Chelsea. On top of that, you've got players that, yes, they might not be part of the first team, but they're still going to be friends with the Chelsea squad. They'll still be talking, and you don't want those negative vibes affecting the Chelsea team that is going out there and performing on the pitch every single week. So I'm going to get into my 5 transfers, but before we do, I'm going to rule out Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, he'd be one of my 5 if I was going to say 5 players that Chelsea must sell, but it does look like he's already got a move linked to Napoli that should be going ahead. I mean, you know how these things work, particularly with Lukaku in Chelsea. Something's bound to go wrong, but fingers crossed that one is done. So I'm going to focus on 5 other players that I think need to go if Chelsea want to be successful this season. Now, the first player that I think Chelsea need to get rid of before the end of this window is the one that all the media reports are about at the minute, and that is of course Raheem Sterling. Now, there's a few reasons for this, but it's been made pretty clear right now that Maresca doesn't see Sterling as part of his plans going forward, so if you're backing Maresca, then Sterling has to go. Now, whether it's actually Maresca's choice or the board telling him what to say, I'm not too sure, but at this current stage, Sterling looks like he's going to be going through the exit door at Chelsea, and there's a few reasons why I think this is the most important transfer outside of Lukaku that Chelsea need to get done. The first part is, of course, Sterling is a player with a huge reputation, and if he isn't playing at a club like Chelsea, if we don't sell him, there's either going to be the media reports of Chelsea bringing him back into the first team and the controversy that might bring, or Chelsea just leaving him to rot in the reserves and not really giving him any game time. He's a huge reputation player, and he probably deserves to play football at a high level. Now, it's hard to say a footballer deserves to play, but you know what I mean. Sterling has had a brilliant career, and for him just to be shoved in the reserves doesn't make sense. So I hope for his sake and the club's sake that they can get him moved on. But the other reason is his wages. Now, outside of Lukaku, I believe he is, if not one of the most highest paid players at Chelsea Football Club, and they are trying to get their wage bill down a lot. It wouldn't surprise me if Chelsea were willing to pay a little bit of Sterling's wages in the sale. It might be that many clubs aren't able to offer him the wage packet that Chelsea are currently doing, so that might be a solution to the problem, but I think all around for all parties it makes sense for Sterling to be sold. So he's the first player that I think Chelsea needs to get rid of. But the second one is a little bit different. This is Carney Chukwuemeka. Now, the reason that I say Chelsea should get rid of him is not for the fact that I think Carney isn't a good player or I think he doesn't have good potential. I think he should be part of Chelsea's plans going forward, but it looks like with the amount of talent we've got, with the signing of João Felix as well, Pedro Neto too, the way that Maresca plays, there's just not really room for him at the minute. Now, it could be in a few years that he would develop into a top player that will really work in Chelsea's team. And to be honest, he's not really let us down when he has played, but at this stage of his career, he does need to be playing football. So to just let him rot in the reserves wouldn't be right for me. He's also a player that it looks like Maresca isn't using in his squads all that much, so we need to get rid of him. Now, the reason I say it should be done in this transfer window is after last season, I think Chukwuemeka's stocks will be fairly high. I don't know if Chelsea would make a profit on him, but I think they could at least break even on the initial fee that we paid for him. He is a very talented player with a bright future, and this is more for his sake than it is Chelsea's sake, but I feel like he needs to go find a team that is willing to let him play. Now, it could be that a solution is a loan option, and then maybe we bring him back and see where he settles in the team, but I think as long as Maresca's here, unless Chukwuemeka becomes, you know, Cole Palmer when he's out on loan, I just don't think we're going to see him break back into that first team. So I think it makes sense for all parties now to cut ties, sell him, make the money that you can, let Chukwuemeka have a good career somewhere else. Because what I'd hate to see, even though I'm a Chelsea fan, is for him to waste his potential here and just be stuck at the club and not able to play. So I really hope a deal gets sorted for him by the end of the window. The third player that I think needs to be let go, though, much like the Raheem Sterling case, is the widely reported sale of Ben Chilwell. Now, I actually am one of them that really likes Ben Chilwell. I know there's some people out there that don't think he's suited to Chelsea, don't think he's good enough defensively, but this man was vital in the season where we won the Champions League. He was brilliant under Tuchel, and when he was fit, he was one of our best players. But I can see now with Maresca saying, again, whether it's off his own back or the board, I'm not sure, but saying that Chilwell isn't a player he wants to use, you've got to get rid of him. I mean, he's again going to be one of the higher paid players at the club. He's an older player that holds some weight in the dressing room. He's vice captain. So at this stage, if you're not using Chilwell, it's time to sort out a move. And with time ticking away, I find it hard to believe Chelsea are going to be able to pull all of this off. I hope they do, but it's going to be pretty tough to find sales for these players. And I wouldn't be surprised if come deadline day, we're loaning people out with clauses that never get bought out, or we're just selling people for really cheap prices to get rid of them. It wouldn't shock me at all. But Ben Chilwell is someone that I think just doesn't have a place at Chelsea now with the way that Maresca is playing. It's going to be Cucurella. If he's not playing, it's Renato Viega. Both players that Chelsea probably see with a higher valuation long term than Ben Chilwell. Now, I think Chilwell does have a lot to offer still for whatever club ends up getting him. I think he'll be a good player. Whether that's your big 6-level team or a team outside of that like a Newcastle or a Villa, who I'm not saying need him, but that kind of level of club might be where he goes. I'm not sure. But again, it might be another one where Chelsea have to pay some of his wages. It might be a loan deal with an option to buy. I'm not sure how they're going to get rid of Chilwell. It doesn't seem like there's major interest in him, but I feel like for both parties now at this stage, that is a deal that Chelsea must get over the line come the end of the window. And that leaves us with two players now to look at, two that I think make very interesting cases. But before I talk about those, if you are enjoying the video up to this point, it would mean a hell of a lot if you could smash the like button for me and subscribe for more as we get close to 1k subs. Obviously, all of those interactions help me out here on YouTube, so thank you to anybody that does do that. And remember to comment down below which player you think Chelsea must sell by the end of a window. But with two to go, there's some honourable mentions I think should be noted. Firstly, I hope the Petrovic situation gets sorted, whether that's a loan deal out or a sale. It's not fair on him. He's a good goalkeeper who's got a good future ahead of him, but Sanchez and Jorgensen are clearly the preferred options at Chelsea currently. You could even argue as well David Washington. I don't know what Chelsea are going to do with him at all. There's so many players ahead of him in the pecking order. A lot of people don't even know he exists if you're not a Chelsea fan. So that's one where I hope he gets loaned out somewhere for a bit more development. And on top of that as well, there's another one that I want to say honourable mention is Cesare Casadei, who seems to be kind of forgotten about at this point, but I'm sure there'll be interest in Italy if we can get a loan move, maybe even a sale as well permanently, because he deserves a permanent home. We kind of mistreated him last season, I think personally, by taking him away from Leicester halfway through the season and then not really using him anyway. So that's one that I hope gets sorted. But there's two transfers that I think are of higher importance to Chelsea than that. The first one that I'm going to speak about is one that I don't necessarily want Chelsea to do, but I feel like we have to now, and that is Trevor Chalobah. Now, there's no place for him at centre-back anymore, based on the reports we're hearing and who Maresca is favouring, and what we've seen so far, that seems to be the case. Now, personally, I've said it before, I feel like we shouldn't have gone for Tosin. We should have just kept that space for Chalobah, but I get it. Tosin comes in on a free. Meanwhile, Trevor Chalobah you can sell for pure profit, the word they all love to use, homegrown player being sold on, and you could probably have got a pretty good deal for Trevor, but the way that it's gone now, it's gone from being like £35 million links to Man United, as tedious as that might be, to now I'd be surprised if Chelsea got anything above 15-20 million for him, and he is clearly a better player than that. But Chelsea, the reason that I hate this one is we gave him a long contract, we backed him really as a player, and now suddenly we don't want to use him, and it's not like he doesn't fit Maresca's system. He's good on the ball, he's a good defender. Will he ever be world class? Will he ever be a Premier League title winning centre-back starting 38 games a season? Probably not, but that was never his level anyway. I think Trevor was very happy to be a squad level player that came in when Chelsea needed him, always gave 100% whenever he was called upon, and was a bit of a fan favourite as well coming through the academy. So it's a real shame that Chelsea have kind of froze him out like this. So for that reason, I don't want them to, but I feel like we need to sell him for his sake as well. He needs to be playing football. I know Palace have sold a centre-back recently in Joachim Anderson. I feel like Chalobah would fit perfectly there. I know they've signed someone else already, I believe, from Barcelona to play there, but either way, that's the kind of club that Chalobah would easily improve. If they sold Gurhi, get Chalobah in. That guy is good enough to play at that level. I even would argue Chalobah is good enough to play top 6 football for another club. But yeah, it just is the way that it is. It looks like Chelsea, Chalobah isn't going to work out anymore. I think there's a quality player in there. I think we'll see a Tomori situation where he leaves and everyone goes, actually, he's quite good. And it'd be like, yeah, we always knew he was, but for some reason, it just never worked out. I think Chalobah needs to go somewhere for his own sake. I hope that deal gets done by the end of the window. Worst case would be Chalobah gets stuck in, has to play reserve football, maybe comes on for a few minutes in a random game. That's not what we want from him. I want that guy to go out there and prove everyone wrong as to why he should have stayed at Chelsea. But the final deal I think Chelsea needs to get done is a striker that at one point Chelsea would have considered as having a bright future, but now clearly they just want to sell him on for some cash because of everyone else they've bought in. I mean, currently up front we've got Nicholas Jackson, we've got Mark Gui, we've got Felix if you want to call him a striker, David Washington, and plenty of others in the youth academy and whatnot, and we're still being linked to other other strikers. Meanwhile, David Datro Fofana is still at Chelsea. The same goes for Armando Broja as well, but because it looks like a move might be getting done for him, I'm not going to talk about him today. But David Datro Fofana, it seems to have gone quiet on him, but this is a player that when he played for Burnley last season, didn't look too bad. Now, I'm not saying he is, a Premier League level starting striker right now, but I think he will be in time. Whenever he played for Chelsea, he looked pretty dynamic. He looked like he wanted it. He looked like he was ready to fight for the shirt, but it was only very limited minutes. He didn't really get an opportunity. And realistically, he's never going to suddenly become Chelsea's main man up top. So at this point, we need to cut ties with him, make some money off him, get him going somewhere, and try and break even on what we initially paid for him. Now, will there be a lot of interest in him? I'm not sure, but I feel like there probably should be with the way that he's been playing. Now, whether it's a loan with a mandatory fee to buy or whether it's just a straight out loan, I don't know what Chelsea would do. But I think it's a transfer Chelsea needs to get done because, like I said, I listed all the strikers that are probably ahead of him in the pecking order now. He's never going to get game time. That value is going to diminish as time goes on, so it makes sense to me to sell David Datro Fofana. So if Chelsea got all these sales done by the end of the window, I think it would help the team massively. I don't expect them to be able to do so, but if they could, it would definitely help the club and the situation surrounding it. Now, if you sold Sterling, what you're looking at, 25-30 million as a predicted guess. Chalobah, maybe something a little bit less, 20 to 25. David Datro Fofana, maybe 10. Chukwuemeka, 20. I forgot the other one that I talked about. Chilwell, maybe that's a 15-20 million. I don't know, I'm making up fees here. But you might even be looking at, with all of those sales, £100 million or so in sales, on top of freeing up those wage bill as well, and getting those players' careers elsewhere. Taking away a lot of the noise around Chelsea as well, which is something that I think people underestimate a lot. You don't want all these negative things going around you in the media. It makes every press conference about it, every player's aware of it. Some people say, oh, it's only a news article or whatnot, but those things will get to the players because every player at the club will be thinking, that could be me next, I could be Trevor Chalobah next, I could be Raheem Sterling, getting frozen out. You don't want that around the club, so I hope they are able to get rid of those players, and I think that will really help Chelsea this season. So that's 5 players that I think Chelsea should sell. Let me know in the comments who you think they should. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.